Hey everyone, there are several different versions of this video, so make sure that you've clicked on the correct one for your instrument. In this video, I'm going to go over how to read and finger the first notes that we learn on our instrument that are found in your book on page 4. There's also a note guide that I want you to follow along with called Our First Notes, and there's a link to it down below in the lesson on Google Classroom. If you're watching this from YouTube, you're gonna have to go back to Google Classroom. Otherwise, you're looking down below and there's just the description. So I'll have the links there that you need so that you can view the right information for your instrument. This version of the video is for the trumpet. I'm going to be playing today on a cornet because my trumpet is at home. A cornet is a distant cousin of the trumpet. They're held and played and sound very similar. Now, I assume that you've already watched the video on how to hold and make the first sounds on the trumpet. If you haven't done so already, go back and watch that playlist or both those playlists from last week so you know how to hold the instrument and you know how to produce those first sounds. Now, I'm going to just review real quick. My left hand is doing the holding part. It's gripped around the valves. My right hand is what I'm going to use for the fingers, and it should rest on top of the instrument. My right hand should be completely relaxed and isn't doing any of the holding. You notice my finger is on top of this hook, not underneath it. My thumb is not shoved through this hole here. My thumb is just resting in that spot here between the second and third, or excuse me, between the first and second valves. My fingers just rest on top of the valves. This is the Our First Notes page for the trumpet. There's a link to it in the Google Classroom assignment that you've just clicked through to get to this video. And there's also, you can also find it in your virtual music folder. If you go to Google Classroom and the classwork tab, scroll all the way down to the bottom under resources, you'll find your virtual music folder, and Our First Notes is in your virtual music folder. You'll just need to make sure you get the one for trumpet. Now, for right now, you can ignore the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you see right here, and you can ignore DRMFS. We will get into what those are later, but not today. Today, we're going to be worried about these letters, C, D, E, F, G, specifically E, F, and G, because those are the first notes that we learn on page 4 in our book. Now, on this page, I use the word open, and I use numbers to show you which buttons need to be pressed to play which notes on your instrument. So in your book, though, it's going to be different. In your book, you have white and black circles. Black circles are buttons that you press, and white are buttons that you don't press. So if I were to see a note that had nothing but white circles, it would mean I wouldn't push any of the buttons, any of the valves. If I saw 3 black circles, it means I would push all 3 of them. And the circles in your book are always from left to right. So the first circle is your pointer finger, the second circle is your middle finger, and the third circle is always your third finger. All right. So the first note we have to learn is a G. I've written down here the word open. Open means I'm not going to push any of the valves at all. In your book, you'll see that there are 3 white circles for the G, which means there's no buttons at all. Now, you'll notice here on this page that there's 2 notes that are called open, and that's because with that same fingering, I can get 2 or more sounds at the same time. So what we need for this one is a high sound. A G should sound like this. If you go to play that note the first time and get this sound instead, you're getting the low sound, and there's 2 things you need to change. One is you need to push a little more air through the instrument. We need to use fast air. The second is we need to make sure we're making a smaller opening in our lips. So imagine that your lips are squeezing inward as if you had a straw in your mouth and you were trying to squeeze with your lips, not your teeth, squeeze with your lips to make the opening and that straw smaller. Listen to me change between that low sound and that high sound. So practice making those changes. Right now we want just the high sound to play those Gs. Now, the next thing we have to worry about is the F. F is played with just one button. It's the first valve. That's the one that is closest to your nose. Okay, first valve. F is slightly lower than G and sounds like this. And then E, I know it's an E because it has the letter E and it's on the bottom line of the staff. Notes that are on the bottom line of the staff are always going to be E. It uses 1 and 2. Those are the two buttons that are closest to my nose. Now, this isn't for page 4, but I'll keep going. To play a D, I use 1 and 3. My middle finger is not pressed down. And I've already showed you C. C is always below the staff and has this ledger line going through the middle of it. And it's open. It's a low sound like this. Now I'm going to play each of those notes in order. Notice how it starts high and each note goes successively lower and lower and lower. Here's a G. Here's an F. Here's an E. Here's a D. And here's a C. All right, now you're ready to work on page 4 in your book. You can always refer back to this video if you don't remember what the notes are supposed to sound like or what the fingerings look like. And you can always refer to the Our First Notes page, which will always be available to you in your virtual music folder. Thanks for watching and good luck practicing.